Okay, so I thought this would be fun to do, so I've just decided to do it. I wanted to do this for all the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies when they come out, at least. I don't know if I'll do it with all the movies I watch, but I'll just do it with these review podcast things. If I sound weird, it's because I've been sick recently. I'm mostly over it, but I think I'm still a little stuffy, so you might be able to hear it. I don't know. Okay, so I'm reviewing Captain America: The Winter Soldier. As you can tell, I am not scripted, although it's not that difficult. Okay, and this is probably this is easily the best jumping on point to start doing these reviews. I think this will make a lot more sense, obviously. Anyway, so Captain America 2. It's a movie. It's a sequel to both the first Captain America and to the Avengers. You should probably watch both before you watch this movie. Oh yeah, so I'm going to split this review up into a bunch of sections. 4, actually. The first one, is going to be the non-spoiler section where I talk about the general stuff and whether you should see it or not. Spoiler alert, you should. Second section will be a spoiler section where I talk about the things that actually happen in the movie. The third section will just be comic book references that I got, or just references in general. It's not that many, because the other comic book references I'm going to cover in the fourth section, which is speculation for future events in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Okay. So, first section. What happens in the story? How can I not spoil what happens in the story? Let's say that Cap is with S.H.I.E.L.D. and they do some things, and you'll just have to watch the movie to find out. Because I literally cannot think of a way to not spoil the movie story that I apparently cannot speak. I cannot think of a way to not spoil this movie's story. You just have to go watch it, and trust me, I'm just going to say this is like the best non-Avengers movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, this is easily probably shot up to my second favorite of all these movies. Like, this movie is just so well made. Of course, like most of the other movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the acting's all really good. Everybody's like spot on. They chose the perfect people. Even if some of them, when you first heard about them, you were like, wait, what? Like in the first Cap, when people learned that the Human Torch was going to play Captain America. Which now, at this point, I honestly keep forgetting that he's actually played the Human Torch. Chris Evans, I mean. Because I just can't stop thinking about him as Captain America. But yeah, even the minor characters are, like, really well acted. And everybody just does a great job. It helps that the writing's really good as well. So they don't have to, like, carry a really bad script. And it's not that a really good script is carrying bad actors. It's that really great actors are working with a really great script. And it's amazing. The way this movie looks is amazing. I looked it up, and apparently they tried to be as what's the word? They tried to be as authentic as possible. They tried to use as little CGI as possible. Like when for a lot of these action scenes, what am I looking for? They try to be as real as possible. They don't try to fake you out with CGI most of the time. I mean, obviously the Quinjets kind of have to be CGI, and they're like those weird looking helicopter planes that they have. If you don't know, that's what they're called, Quinjets. Those have to be CGI, and most of the time, when Cap throws his shield, it has to be CGI. And also, that looks really good too. So when it is CGI, it looks really good. But most of the time, they try not to use CGI. And the fight scenes look so freaking good. Like, I mean, there's some shaky cam in there, which is like the big gripe that I have with that not only me, but a lot of other people have with modern action movies. There's a little bit, but it's not so much that it's really going to get in the way. I mean, it kind of does at some points, but most of the time, it doesn't. Sorry. So, and it just looks really, really good, and I love, like, one of my favorite kinds of fight scenes is the hand-to-hand combats. Is like hand-to-hand fight scenes, kung fu and everything. And this movie has that movie has that in spades. Like, it's awesome. And the other fight scenes, like the gunfights and the car chases, and of course all the explosions, also look freaking amazing. And let's see, I think that's all I can really cover without being spoilery, so I guess I'm going to go into the next section with spoilers. So, Nick Fury, quote-unquote, dies, but he totally comes back, and you could totally call that he comes back. And is it just me, or is, like, every single freaking action movie using, like, some kind of... I don't know if it's, like, the same drug in every one, but they all have the same basic ability where, like, you take it and then your heartbeat slows down so much that people think you're dead. Like, it's like in this movie, it's 1 heartbeat a minute, which I think is a little bit more exaggerated than the other ones. Because I think the other movies, I think the Wolverine used the same thing. And it was one of those, the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes movies used it too. And, yeah, like, everybody just keeps using that. Like, all these scriptwriters just learn of this drug or something like it, and they're like, oh, yeah, we should use that, yeah, to try and fake people out. It's gotten used so much. I wonder if there's a trope on it on TV Tropes or something now. I don't know if there is. I should look that up. But anyway, Nick Fury, quote-unquote, dies, and then we learn that S.H.I.E.L.D.'s been compromised and things like that, which I kind of figured, and you could probably figure out from the trailers as well, is that S.H.I.E.L.D.'s been compromised. And then we learned something that I didn't quite expect, is that S.H.I.E.L.D. was actually Hydra the whole time, or most of the time, which is pretty crazy. I can totally say I didn't expect that. I mean, okay, so I was reading Trinity War recently, which is, if you don't know, a big event comic that DC did very recently for their Justice League books. And the thing about it is, they've done like a bunch of events before that. I know this sounds really weird, but I'm going to tie it back. They did a bunch of events before that one. So there wasn't really a status quo in the DC universe. And I think that really hindered my enjoyment of Trinity War. I still loved it, and I think it's amazing, but it hindered my enjoyment at least a little bit because we hadn't really had a status quo for the Justice League in that universe. And I think that Captain America the Winter Soldier is probably the most plot important of the Phase 2 movies so far. Because, like, I mean, Iron Man 3 didn't really do anything too important except they established a different way of getting superpowers with both Extremis and that brain slot thing. Thor the Dark World, I mean, there was that stinger at the end. I don't know if I should spoil that, but that's pretty important. And they established the Infinity Gems, kind of, which is also pretty important, but you probably could have gleaned that over. You'll probably be able to glean it over from Guardians of the Galaxy when that comes out. But this is definitely the most important one, because we kind of lose S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, S.H.I.E.L.D. is gone now, which is really interesting. And I think this was like the perfect time to get rid of S.H.I.E.L.D. or do an event like that, because this is our 9th Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, which is weird to think about because this is only like the second Captain America one. We've only had 1 Avengers. We've had 3 Iron Man movies. I think this is the perfect time, even if you're just following Captain America's story, this is the perfect time to shake things up. And if you're following the MCU in general, like I am, practically religiously, it is the perfect time to shake things up like that. And I think they've... God. I think they've paced this out really well. What was I thinking? I was going to bring something else up. Yeah, because I feel like I was starting to feel kind of in that rut that some other people were feeling, that the movies were getting a little too jokey, a little too fun, which I think I believe you could have kept that atmosphere and just made things like, really all they need is good villains. Like, that's all they need to make these movies feel better. Because I just feel kind of not disgruntled, but like they could still be better. And I think they relied a little bit too much on the jokes. They certainly help a lot, and if they didn't have them, I wouldn't be as into these movies. But they just need really good villains, and I think this movie kind of has that. I mean, Winter Soldier isn't that great. He kind of gets pushed to the side. Alexander Pierce is a pretty obvious villain from the start, but he's still pretty threatening. But I think, and who that guy is, whoever that guy is, I know he's Crossbones in the comic, but he's like the leader of the strike team. He's pretty intimidating. And I feel like they use Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D. itself as the main villain, which is why it feels so threatening, and why I think that elevates this above the other movies in Phase 2, is that they've come up with a really good villain. Like, my main gripe with Thor: The Dark World was that, and by the way, to give you a little context, what I thought about the other 2 Phase 2 movies, I thought Iron Man 3 was really, really good, unlike a lot of other people who didn't like the twist that happened in that movie. And I really didn't... It's not that I don't like Thor 2. Like, I think it's okay, but it's really on that line between a bad movie and an okay movie. And I think the reason why that is because the villain in that movie gets, like, no development at all. Like, he's just kind of there, and he does things. And we kind of know why he does it, but it's just so separate from the rest of the movie, kind of. I know this isn't the best way to articulate this, but, oh, man. That movie, I could probably do a rant on that movie or something. It's not that I don't like it, it's just that it's okay. It's just so average. Let's get back to this movie. Zola actually became a computer, which was cool. Or it was kind of weird because I don't know what era they said that they put his brain in the computer, like the 70s, which is kind of weird. I kind of don't believe it, and I kind of do believe it at the same time, because we're in this heightened comic book reality where, like you've got all these really high-tech things happening in this universe, but we still kind of have the same technology progression like we do in the real world. So it's kind of believable and it's kind of not. It'll kind of depend on how much you're into the movie. I was really into it, so I'm like 90% into this idea that Zola became a computer. I know that's how he is in the comics, and I thought, oh hey, yeah, they're going to do that. I kind of knew they'd do that at some point. But anyway, so since S.H.I.E.L.D. is actually Hydra the whole time. Not all of them. I'm going to specify. Not all of the agents were Hydra agents, technically, or at least they didn't know they were Hydra agents. It's not like brainwashing or anything. It's just that they were Shield. Shield was Hydra the whole time, but most people still think it's Shield. But there were some people that knew it was Hydra and were totally like, yeah, okay, I'll do the whole Hydra thing. So like Coulson isn't a Hydra agent. But I was actually really surprised that Sitwell was Agent Sitwell, who was been a pretty minor character. I think he was in Thor. Yeah, he was in the first Thor. He was in a couple of the one-shots that they did. He was in Avengers a little bit. I'm not sure if he was in any of the Iron Man movies, though. I don't think so. But anyway, I was really surprised that he was a Hydra agent. And then Senator Stearns from Iron Man 2 was a Hydra agent, which is really neat. I mean, I was actually spoiled like a year ago because I like stumbled upon some images of him on the set, of the guy who plays Senator Stearns on the set. But I didn't know he was a Hydra agent, and I just thought that was really cool. That totally makes sense now why he was so into getting Tony to get rid of the Iron Man suit, or hand over the Iron Man suit. It makes even more sense now, at least to me. Oh yeah, and then I guess the last major spoiler is the Winter Soldier is Bucky. It's just that's pretty surprising to some people. I mean, I already knew he was because I'm familiar with the comics. I've never. I might as well specify. I haven't read Ed Brubaker's Captain America. So, and in fact, I have very little experience with Captain America comics. Like, I've read the John Byrne stuff and a good amount of the Mark Waid stuff from, like, the mid-90s. I think it was the mid-90s. But, yeah, I haven't read Ed Brubaker's run. But Winter Soldier actually kind of gets shafted in this movie. At least a little bit. I mean, there's some scenes where I really like him, but most of the time, he just gets shafted as an actual character. Hopefully, he'll get more stuff to do in the third Cap, or any other movie he shows up in. But it'll probably just be the third Captain America, which they're undoubtedly going to do, because at the time of this recording, I think they're already over 100 million over here, or something like that. It's crazy. I mean, over here in America. So, I might as well go to comic book references. The ship at the very beginning of the movie is called the Lemurian Star, which is a reference to the Lemurians. I don't know how to pronounce that exactly. Lemurians. God, it's freaking cough. Which the Lemurians are basically, what are they? How can I explain this? They're like the Atlanteans. They were Atlanteans, but then they moved to the Pacific Ocean, basically. Which, I don't know if the Lemurians or the Atlanteans will show up in the MCU anytime soon. I don't really think there's room for them to show up, like, anytime soon. Maybe in Phase 4, or in one of the TV shows that they plan on doing. They could bring them in, or at least have a cameo or something. We get Batroc the Leaper, which is neat. And you get a really cool fight scene with him. I think he's... there. I don't know what I was saying. And I don't really have too many comic book references here, because they didn't really have too many. I mean, there's of course a couple at the mid-credit scene, but I'm going to save that for the speculation, which will come up shortly. And then, this isn't a comic book reference, but they have the quote that Samuel L. Jackson's character uses in Pulp Fiction I'm trying to remember the name of his character in Pulp Fiction, but I can't. But, yeah, they had that on his tombstone, or on his gravestone, rather, which I thought was pretty fun, which I actually didn't notice when I watched the movie, but when I looked it up later to see if I missed any Easter eggs, that was one of them, and I was like, no way, I wasn't even thinking about that, which... I've seen some people online, because there's like a small subsection of people that are like, that want to see Pulp Fiction and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like then the movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe take place in the same universe, which that's only going to feed that fire, which I think is funny. And people only think that because Samuel L. Jackson's in there, and I think Tim Roth is his name, is in there, and he was the villain in The Incredible Hulk, and he eventually became the Abomination. I don't have much for speculation this time around, because I don't read that much Cap. I'll probably end up having more speculation when I do Guardians of the Galaxy. But I'm pretty sure S.H.I.E.L.D. is totally disbanded. I've seen some people say that it's not, but I'm pretty sure that they've totally disbanded S.H.I.E.L.D. and everybody's just gone their separate ways. Like some of them join the CIA and things like that, and some of them just kind of wander the earth, like Nick Fury does at the end. And that's honestly kind of a really bold move to get rid of S.H.I.E.L.D., by the way. I haven't really covered this, but this is a totally bold move on the writers and producer's part. And because a Marvel Universe without S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to be pretty crazy. Because you're just going to have superheroes and supervillains running around. You don't have a looming government. Like, I know some people don't think that a government like that should exist in a world full of superheroes. I kind of think they should. Like, I think there's a balance you need there between the superheroes and the supervillains and the governments. I don't think one should overtake the other. I think you definitely need a balance there. So I think S.H.I.E.L.D.'s going to come back in Captain America 3. I think that's the... either that or one of the Avengers movies. That would be the ones that make the most sense. It'll probably be either the events of Avengers 2 or the events of Cap 3 that bring S.H.I.E.L.D. back together. But anyway. And then I have two other points. The mid-credit scene, I mean, there's an after-credit scene too, but really it's just the Winter Soldier learning about his past, which is not much of an after-credit scene. And either might as well have just been cut. I feel it should have just either been cut or put into the actual, like, movie. And I kind of felt the same way about the after-credit scene for Thor: The Dark World. Not the mid-credit scene, but the after-credit scene. Just, I don't know, some of these just feel like... I mean, that one just felt really superfluous. I'm sorry if I went on a long tangent about that. Okay. So, we get the establishment of Baron von Strucker, who is our real leader of Hydra for the modern day. And he totally has Loki's scepter from the first Avengers movie. Which I actually accidentally got spoiled on that like a month ago, and I was like, damn it! Every single one of these, something gets spoiled for me. It's terrible. Or I think most of them had. Most of these movies had. Anyway. But yeah. Which... I totally forgot about Loki's scepter being a thing at all. I don't know why. I just kind of assumed that S.H.I.E.L.D. took it and put it in one of their many, many, many vaults. But even if they did, now somebody could just totally ransack their vaults. Speaking of which, I haven't thought about that. What's going to happen to all those prisons that S.H.I.E.L.D. was keeping under? I mean, I haven't seen any of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Episodes that happened post Winter Soldier. I can't because I'm recording this a couple days before. I think it's the 18th episode of Agents comes out. So I kind of wonder what happens to all those prisons that they've been keeping, or all those, like, those treasure vaults that they have, because they've got to have, like, other treasure vaults and crap like that. And they also established an academy in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for, like, an academy for S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. So what happens then? People just waste all their money on tuition for a S.H.I.E.L.D. college? Like, that's terrible. I just thought about that. Wow. Wow, that's crazy. I don't... What's going to happen to those? I mean, some government's got to take care of those, right? Somebody's got to. Okay. So, yeah, Baron von Strucker has Loki's scepter, which it kind of looked like they were experimenting on it, and you probably got to kind of assume that anyway. I don't know if he can control people's minds. I don't know if he knows how to use it, or if it's very intuitive to use. What's the UI system on Loki's scepter? I guess that could be a kind of fun sketch for someone to do if somebody wants to do that. Go do that, people with more money than I. And I kind of wanted just to talk about Loki's scepter in general anyway, because I've seen some people online say that it's the mind gem of the Infinity Gems on there. On the end of Loki's scepter. And I don't know how I feel about that. Because, like, okay, I'm not going to explain a lot of these terms for non-comic book people. You can probably just look this up. But just don't look up too much, because then you might end up getting spoiled for one of these movies in the future. So, I mean, Thanos was the big purple guy at the end of the Avengers, so we know he was the guy behind Loki. And he had to have known that he was giving Loki the scepter to go to Earth and bring out the Chitauri, and so Thanos could do whatever he wanted to do on Earth. It's probably not... It's... God, this freaking cough. It was probably just to get to the Tesseract, so he could get the other Infinity Gems. But the thing about it is, if there's a mind gem on the end of that, Thanos wouldn't willingly give that up. Unless he didn't know it was a mind gem, or he doesn't know what the gems are, or, like, he had to have not known about it in order to give it up. Like, that's the only way. And I don't know if I believe that yet, because we haven't seen enough with Thanos. And, like, whenever I've seen Thanos in a comic, he's always got this big grand plan, and he always knows exactly what he's doing. I mean, there was this one time before Infinity Gauntlet, near the end of the Adam Warlock stories, that he actually had all 6 Infinity Gems, but he didn't really know what they did, and so he was just using them to blow up suns, I think. He was using them to blow up or absorb the energy of stars, one of the two. I'm pretty sure. But anyway, I still don't believe that that's the mind gem on the end of Loki's scepter. Like, I just think it's just magic. That's how I feel. I guess it's possible, but it'd be a really, really big plot hole. Unless Thanos just does not know about the Infinity Gems or anything about them. Which I guess we'll learn more about that in Guardians, but I just really don't believe it. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about from that mid-credit sequence is that Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch are with Baron von Strucker, probably against their will. And apparently they, like, experimented on him, or on the twins, rather. So, it's probably going to tie back into the brain slot thing from Iron Man 3, where it's like that's where human evolution goes, or whatever. They're basically not mutants. I mean, not mutants. You know what I was saying. I mean, there's not much else to say. I don't really have any other speculation beyond that. What exactly that means. By that I mean, go watch the movie. It's awesome. You know what I mean. Bye.